So you want to know the secret to increasing your push-ups, eh? Well, I'm here to tell you that unfortunately there is no secret. You just need to do more push-ups. But hey, stop. Before you hit the back button, let me explain what I mean. What I mean is you actually need to do more push-ups following a structured training protocol, and that's what I'll be covering in this video. Now, the strength training protocol I'll be sharing is straight out of the old Soviet Union, and it is simple and effective, just like another Soviet gem, the AK-47. So how did I stumble across this old Soviet strength protocol? Probably 8 years ago now. Life got in the way, things got really busy, and essentially I stopped training regularly, okay? And it wasn't long before I'd put on a bit of weight and was pretty unconditioned, yeah? And it sucked really, didn't feel good. So I decided to do something about it. Now, my background is tactical law enforcement, and I had the ego to match at the time. So when it came to getting back in shape, I couldn't help myself, yeah? I decided to go hard out. I was all in. Around about that time, there was one of those internet challenges, 200 push-ups a day kind of thing going on. And I thought, that's perfect. I'll give that a nudge. I thought I'll smash that out, no worries, and I'll be fit again in no time. And truth be told, it was actually an absolute disaster, okay? I ended up wrecking my shoulders, by about week 3, I was struggling to lift my shoulder, so my arm above my shoulder, starting to get impingement, and I was getting a lot of achy shoulders at night that was keeping me awake, which affected my sleep and recovery. So, like I said, it was an absolute disaster. On reflection, it was clearly way too much volume at the time, given my lack of conditioning. Here's the thing. After taking a short break from exercise, I essentially parked my ego and came back with a near perfect training plan, okay? And that's the one I picked up from 2 pillars of the strength training community, Dan John from Dan John University and Pavel from Strong First. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong. Now, this plan that I'm going to share with you today, it meant that I was able to smash my PR in just 6 weeks. And I didn't do it by training harder, I did it by training smarter and by going heavier. The method that Dan and Pavel talk about, like I said, it comes from the old strength training schools in the Soviet Union. In the West, it's called greasing the groove. Now, it sounds like something you'd do to a car engine, but it's actually a really effective way to build volume without destroying your joints. The problem is the original greasing the groove concept taught by Dan and Pavel has been misinterpreted by a lot of fitness influencers and stuff online. And so a lot of the grease the groove stuff you see online is actually rubbish. Yeah, it's not in line with the true protocol, the original protocol. And this is important, especially if you want to tackle this protocol in your 40s, where recovery and fatigue management is really important. It's really important you do grease the groove as it was originally written. Before we go get into the protocol, we need to establish your baseline. We need to make sure that baseline is the right one. And this is the common mistake that people make with greasing the groove based on the rubbish information that you see online, okay? They choose a rep range that is way too high. If you can do 30 push-ups, doing sets of 15 isn't gonna work, okay? You're not strength training anymore, that's endurance. So you need to bring your maximum reps down to a specific rep range, which is around that 8 to 10. This is the sweet spot, yeah? This is where the magic happens. And this ensures that the load that you are moving is heavy enough to stimulate strength, okay, but not so heavy that you fatigue too quickly. That sweet spot, like I said, 75 to 80% of your 1 rep max, which, according to the National Strength and Conditioning Association in the USA, is, drum roll please, 8 to 10 reps. Right, so here's the testing protocol. First, I want you to warm up properly. Do not skip this step. Around 5 minutes is good. 2 or 3 minutes on the rowing machine or skipping or jogging, whatever it is, and a quick warm up of, getting those shoulders and stuff activated and moving, all right? Next, we're gonna test your maximum perfect push-ups with body weight only. If you can't do 8 reps yet, then this method's not for you, okay? You need to stick with regular push-ups. So what we're looking for is the point at which your form breaks down. So, you're reaching failure. We want that to happen in between that 8 to 10 rep range. And what I mean by form breakdown, I'm talking about your hips sagging, if your shoulders, come up around your ears, you really struggle to grind up out of the bottom. that's when you stop, okay? That's your point of no return, if you like. If you maxed out between, 8 to 10 reps with body weight, sweet as, you're done right now, yeah? Just write the number down because you're gonna need it later. If you can do more than 10 perfect reps, and I'm talking, chest to floor, full lockout, straight line throughout the body, and you've actually got more in the tank, i.e. you can keep going beyond 10, then stop, okay? Because we're already past 10 reps, so we need to stop there and we need to start adding weight. To do this, I recommend grabbing a backpack and just put some weight inside it. It could be small, small weight plates, could be books, bottles of water, bags of sand, whatever you have available and whatever works for you. The reason I suggest using a backpack is that ideally you're going to be wanting to do reps throughout the day, and that could mean you're having to do them at work, or likely means you're going to have to do them at work. If you wear a weight vest around work, someone may confuse you for a suicide bomber who's about to clack off, and we don't want that, right? So that's why I recommend using a backpack, okay? A backpack shouldn't raise too many eyebrows, blends in, everyone else will be carrying one, right? And no one needs to know at least that that's got weight in it. So anyway, back to the testing. So after resting for a minimum of 5 minutes, grab your backpack and put it on. This rest is really important, so don't skip it, all right? 5 minutes minimum. Test yourself again, okay? And if you're still hitting 10 reps with more reps in the tank, again, stop at 10, add some weight, rest 5 minutes so that you're fully recovered, and then go again. Like I said, we're looking for a weight in that backpack where your form breaks down at either 8, 9, or 10 reps, okay, at your technical max. Just keep rinse and repeat until you reach technical failure within that sweet spot of reps. And be honest with this number. And once you reach that, write that weight down and write the reps down, okay? And that is your baseline for the next 6 weeks. Right, so we've established our baseline, right? So now we need to talk about implementation of the plan. And this is where the magic happens. Before I share it with you, what I want you to do is quickly take the time to click subscribe and like below this video. I don't want you to miss out on any future videos that could help you achieve your fitness goals. Thanks, I appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the protocol. Now, we're going to use a very specific variation of the 50% rule that undulates the intensity. Okay, so this prevents you from burning out and keeps the nervous system guessing. And it's really simple, but stick to the plan. So let's assume that your max with the backpack on or without was 8 reps, yeah? That's your baseline. Your 50% rule for that is obviously 4, yeah? So 50% of 8 is 4. From that number, we then look to establish your light, heavy, and your optional peak days. Okay, so your light day, that's going to be 1 rep below your 50%. So in this case, 3 reps. Your medium day is exactly 50%. So that's going to obviously stay at 4. From there, we're going to go to your heavy day, which is going to be 1 rep above your max. So in this case, 5. And then your optional peak day will be 1 or 2 reps from your maximum. Okay, so in this case, 6 to 7 reps. Now pay attention because we are going to be waiving the load specifically to manage fatigue. We're going to be training 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, and Sunday is a day off to rest and recover. So let's talk about your daily rep schedule based on that 8 rep max example. So Monday, that's going to be 3 reps. Okay, it's a nice easy start to the week. Tuesday is going to be a heavy day. We're going to push things up to 5 reps. We're going to be a little bit of a spike in intensity here. Then Wednesday, we're going to drop it down a little bit, back to a medium day. Okay, just dialing it back just a touch. Thursday, we're going to go for another light day. Okay, essentially active recovery type day, yeah? And then Friday is going to be your peak day or your optional peak day. Okay, this is the only day where you're going to push it and go to within 1 to 2 reps of failure for each set. Now, this is only if you feel up to it. If you do start feeling fatigue, just do a heavy day in place of the peak day, yeah? So in which case we're talking 5 reps, okay? So you're gonna have to gauge it based on how you feel. If you feel up to it, go for a peak day, do 6 to 7 reps. If you're feeling fatigue, just stay at that lower level. Keep it heavy, but not peaking. So 5 reps is fine. And then Saturday, last day of the week for us, that's going to be 3 reps, nice and light, and we're just keeping that groove greased. Yeah, that's it. if you're paying attention, what you'll notice is what we're doing is creating a wave, yeah? Light, heavy, medium, light, peak, back to light. At this point, I can hear people going, oh, what if I got 9? You know, what if I got 9 reps? You know, I can't do 4.5 reps. No shit, don't panic, it's all good. If you're in this situation, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to 50%, which is 4.5, and then you're gonna round down to 4. Okay, and this is because at the volumes you're gonna be doing over the next 6 weeks, you're better off erring on the side of caution and going a little bit lower than going higher and burning out. So like I said, round down. So if you get 9, then your base number is 4. Now, how do we progress? Well, we don't add weight, okay? We simply add volume and we add sets. So in week 1, you're gonna start off with 4 sets per day, okay? And this works out to be about 96 to 100 reps per week, depending on whether you do a heavy day or a peak day and that kind of thing. So somewhere around that ballpark figure. Okay, week 2, you're gonna increase your daily volume by 1 set. Okay, so you're gonna end up with 120 to 125 reps that week. Okay, week 3, we're gonna add another set. So now we're up to 6 sets per day, and that's between 144 and 150 reps per week. Week 4, again, add another set to the day. Okay, so now we're up to 7 sets per day, 168 to 175 reps per week. Week 5, we're now up to 8 sets per day. We're looking at 192 to 200 reps per week. This is a good amount of volume, weighted volume too, importantly, which is going to be crucial to developing that strength, all right, and to stimulate some muscle growth, sorry. But because you're spreading it out, you know, so, you know, 1 set after breakfast, 1 after a Zoom call at work or whatever, 1 after your lunch break, 1 during smoko or afternoon tea, whatever you want to call it. You know, you're doing it in a rep range, and because you're spreading it out over the day, you're not getting fatigued, okay? You're just getting strong. And, you know, whenever you finish a set, you should feel like you could immediately knock out the exact same number again, all right? That's how you know you're in the right place, you know, in the right zone. And over the course of 6 weeks, you're going to accumulate somewhere between, you know, 800, 850 perfect push-up reps. That's awesome, okay? Now, I did say without fatigue, but there is a caveat here, okay? You still need to keep an eye out for it, because if you're doing a lot of other stuff, a lot of additional stuff during the day, whether it be supplementary workouts or you're working a manual labor type job that's quite hard out, okay, and you're doing that day in, day out, fatigue can still creep up on you, so just keep an eye out for that. You know, and if this happens, listen to your body and take your foot off the gas a little bit. So for example, if the protocol says it's peak day, but you're feeling a bit knackered, it's all good. Park your ego and just do a light day, you know, just change it up. You might be asking, hey Goose, what about recovery? Well, that brings us to week 6. And this is gonna be your deload week, okay? You cannot redline your engine forever. So in week 6, we're gonna drop the volume back down to 5 sets per day, and we're gonna change the pattern slightly so that we can finish earlier in the week, ready for our retest on the Sunday. So Monday is gonna be a medium day of 4 reps. Tuesday is gonna be a heavy day, 5 reps. Wednesday, we're gonna do another light day with 3 reps. And Thursday, you can either peak, or if you're still feeling a little bit fatigued or you're not feeling 100%, just do a heavy day of 5, okay? And then Friday and Saturday, you're taking both of those days off. Complete rest, no push-ups, no other exercises, anything, okay? Just take those days off as best you can. Then on the Sunday of week 6, that's when we take your backpack and we retest your max. And I promise you that your old max of 8, it's gonna feel like a warm-up. Quick reality check though. I know some of you will probably ignore me. You're gonna try and do sets of 80% of your max 10 times a day. You're gonna think, oh, if some's good, more's better. Well, that's over to you. You're an adult, you can make your own decisions, but as far as I'm concerned, it's just stupid, all right? You're doing this, making the same mistakes that I've made in the past, which I'm trying to tell you how not to do. If you push the intensity too high with this amount of frequency, you're gonna get those nagging joint pains again. I've been there, bought the t-shirt, don't do it, likewise with your starting point, okay? If you're trying to push the volume too high by doing, 8 sets per day in week 1, same, summer, you're gonna fucking hurt yourself. So just don't do it, all right? So stick to the rep program. Light days mean light days, okay? And if the daily schedule says 3 reps, do 3 reps. If it's only 4 sets, yeah, okay, it's only 12 reps total for the day, but that's not the point. We're thinking long term here, yeah? The goal is to grease the groove, not grind the gears. So park the ego. If you make changes to the program, then you're no longer doing this program, okay? You're doing something else. So don't blame me if your results aren't what you expect. Before someone asks, yes, you can use this method for other compound exercises. You could do this, you could run it as a cycle of pull-ups if you've got a pull-up bar at work or whatever. Or a doorway pull-up that you can set up at work, whatever it is. You can do it for lower body exercises, pistol squats or whatever you need to do. I've used it for kettlebell overhead presses. That was really good for that. Doesn't matter what you're doing, this protocol will work. If fatigue's not a problem for you, if you have really good recovery or you're not doing too much else outside of this, you can even add other exercises. But I'd limit it to 2, maybe 3 tops, and only then, like I said, if you can handle the recovery and you're not doing too much other stuff. So for example, if you opted for 2 exercises, you could choose a pushing movement, i.e. the push-ups, and you could choose a squat variation, so Bulgarian split squats, pistol squats, something like that. Okay, and these are easy choices to include into your day. And you can throw a backpack on and get them done even at work, and no one needs to know. If you choose to cycle it with 2 exercises and you find you've still got room for recovery, you're not feeling fatigued or anything, and you've got access to a pull-up bar, add in a 3rd exercise of pull-ups. But keep an eye out for fatigue at this point, okay? Because if you are doing supplementary stuff, you're probably pushing the limits now. So monitor yourself for fatigue and recovery. And if you're not getting the recovery, if you're starting to feel fatigued all the time, just stop. Okay, park your ego, go back to a cycle of 1 or 2 exercises. For me personally, as a male in his mid-40s, as far as I'm concerned, there's no excuse for getting older and not exercising and allowing yourself to get weak. We do have to be mindful of how we train. We just need to train smarter. And the beauty of this protocol is that it's simple and it keeps us away from fatigue if we follow the program. I'm a big fan of old sayings, and I love the one, keep it simple, stupid. Okay, and that is definitely relevant with this protocol. So here's the protocol in as few words as possible. Find your 8 to 10 rep max. Use a weighted backpack if you need it. Follow the protocol. Light, heavy, medium, light, peak, light. Avoid fatigue. Never get close to failure. If you do get fatigue, gas off. That's it. Now, if you found this helpful, or you're going to go give this a shot, let me know in the comments what your starting max is and whether or not you had to add weight. I want to see what sort of results you guys get. Like I said, I've used this plenty of times before, push-ups, overhead press with the kettlebell, that kind of stuff, but I'm interested to see how you guys get on. So let me know in the comments. And if you want to know more about how I train as a male in his mid-40s, as a busy dad working full-time, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because you know what to say, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.